So the meeting is now recording.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for your patience as we deliver virtually the planning board meeting for the town of Moreau for May 18, 2020. We're going to do a little bit of a different opening tonight, given the nature of this meeting and the venue being changed a bit. One thing that we would ask is that unless folks are actively participating in the dialogue or asking a question, that you please go ahead and mute your line in between. That way we can try to minimize background noise as we carry through the different phases of the meeting. But this is a notice that we would like to open this meeting with tonight, given that we do have a public hearing slated on tonight's agenda. I've confirmed with the attorney for the town that tonight's meeting and public hearing has been convened in accordance with the governor's March 13th, 2020 Executive Order 202.1, which suspends certain provisions of the open meetings law to allow a municipal board to convene a meeting via video conferencing. In accordance with the executive order, the public has been provided with the ability to view and participate in tonight's meeting, and a transcript will be provided at a later date. The secretary has done a roll call of the board members. That's what we were going through at the start of the meeting as we were logging everybody in, and there is a quorum present for this meeting. I have also confirmed with the zoning administrator that this meeting has been duly noticed. We have fulfilled our legal notice requirements by posting notice on the town's bulletin boards /door, faxing to the news organizations, etc., posting notice on the town's homepage of its website, and listing on the town's Facebook page. This meeting is being recorded and a transcript will be prepared. There is a public hearing on an application for a 4-lot subdivision with frontage on 330 to 360 Selfridge Road, tax map parcel 77-2-44.11, and that's scheduled for tonight. I will open the public hearing in a few moments, and if you wish to be heard, please raise your hand if you're on the video call or state question if you're on the phone. We will allow everyone who wishes to speak to do so. If you wish to provide your name, please do so. If you do not want to provide your name, you are not obligated to do so. Please address any comments or questions to the board and speak slowly. You may also use the chat feature on the video and type your question. After the public hearing is closed, we will not accept any further comments. The phone number that you can also use if you'd like to call in with a question or a comment is 518-792-1030, extension 222.
Okay, Ron, we have, I just want, just to go through it one more time, we have the board members here in attendance: Mike Shaver, Ron, Ann Van Tassel, and Peter Jensen. Online, we have Jerry Bouchard attending. John Arnold is on as well. We have Ann Purdue, Eric Bergman, our attorney, Carla Bittner is on as well, and Trish Andrews, our recording secretary, are all on the video stream. We do have all 3 applicants' representatives are on as attendees, and we do have some people indicated as interested in the Selfridge Road proposal. Okay. So I suspect they're at least listening and may have comment. So at that appropriate time, we'll see if they want to comment. So do you want me to activate Matt Webster? He's representing the Gardner-Condon subdivision.
Just one moment before we do, we have one quick housekeeping item to take care of, Jim, and that's a review of our minutes from the March 16th, 2020 planning board meeting. That was our last meeting. We did not have a meeting in April. So with that, I'll give folks just a minute to refresh their memory for the March 16th, 2020 planning board meeting. And if there are any additions or deletions or corrections, we'll take those now.
Jerry Bouchard here. I have no comments.
Jerry. Okay.
Yeah, I'm all set too.
Thank you, Eric. That looks good.
Make a motion to approve. So moved.
I have a motion from Mike to accept the minutes from the March 16th, 2020 planning board meeting with a second by Peter. Any further discussion? It's not too controversial. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'd have to abstain. I was not there.
And abstain.
Abstention from Ann. Sorry. I shall concur, the motion carries. So with that, our first agenda item tonight is a public hearing for the subdivision by Mr. Gardner Condon on Selfridge Road. This is a subdivision that is referred to, excuse me, as the North Branch Brook at Selfridge Road. I believe we have Mr. Matt Webster representing.
Matt, can you hear us?
Mr. Congdon?
Yes.
Okay, let me, see if I can get back to you here. Okay, Matt, do you have a camera on your computer?
I do, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna invite you in as gonna promote you to a panelist for now, and then, I'm gonna make you a co-host so you can visually present anything, or at least you'll be seeable.
Okay.
So if they have something.
So you should be coming on as a co-host here momentarily.
All right.
Yeah, we have Matt Webster, and we have a visual of him sporting the COVID beard.
I'm working on it.
All right, okay, so Matt's on.
Good evening, Matt.
Good evening.
We had a few items that we left off with you from our March 16th discussion. If you wouldn't mind, please just give us a little bit of a high-level overview on the proposal, the nature of the application, those couple of items that we'd asked you to follow up on from the last time.
Okay. So we went back and you had requested to at least know the grade of the driveway, the existing driveway. So we did topography for the full driveway, and we show on our revised map the average slope and as well as the maximum slope of the existing driveway, with the maximum slope being 9.8%, which is below the 10% that we're allowed. We have shown available sites for building to show that it is feasible to put a house, a septic, and a well on each lot within setbacks from the wells and everything like that. And the one thing that we discussed at the last meeting was changing the lot numbers from 5, 6, 7, and 8 to 1, 2, 3, and 4. But as this parcel was technically still part of the parcel across the road, if we were to change those numbers and have essentially 2 subdivisions with 1, 2, 3, and 4 on them, the county would want us to change that before we filed it. So we did leave it as 5, 6, 7, and 8. I think that covers most of what we discussed last time. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything there.
The other, given the similar nature to this subdivision, to the last one, both in proximity and the overall lay of the land, and the size of the subdivision is somewhat smaller, obviously, than the last one. We're looking for an erosion and sediment control plan as a lesser form of approach to stormwater and site stabilization. That was the past practice with the other one, and I think that should be the case here as well. I talked to Matt Drymiller, who's the stormwater officer for the town, and he concurs. And then the other, basically housekeeping item here is address numbers for the lots. Will have to be shown in the final plat. And I see you got the deed language on there for the shared maintenance agreement on the driveway. So
Yep.
those are the things I had in my notes.
So as far as getting a stormwater plan and everything together, we can certainly do that. That's not a problem. We can do it the same way as we did with the other subdivision.
As you recall, Pat, with that one, we conditioned the approval on the submission of that erosion and sediment control plan for review and approval by Matt before the final plat was signed.
Yep. So that's no problem. And as far as address numbers, I had not contacted the town assessor yet because, you know, they haven't been approved lots. So I imagine that we wouldn't be able to get the address numbers. But that's certainly something that we can condition the final plat upon as well.
Okay. Anything else, Jim?
That's all I had.
We'll open it up to the other board members. Any additional questions, comments, other information that you're lacking?
I should just say for the record that the applicant is a relative of mine. However, I have no financial interest in this project.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm sorry, Alan, did you have a question?
No, his response has answered all of my notes from the last time, so
Okay.
I'm comfortable.
I guess we would just have to say that Matt has done a good job for us this time.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, John.
I didn't know if you could, I don't have a raise hand option here on my screen, so I didn't know if you could hear me or not. Number one, if I'm understanding this now, this is an 8-lot subdivision tied in with the previous one we've already approved. Matt, is that what I'm to understand here?
I don't know exactly how the town would like to approach this. It was one parcel, which was split by the road, of course. So, I mean, those 4 lots are now those 4 lots, but this would be the remaining land, if you will. So, I don't know who would make that.
It is kind of, I don't want to, for lack of a better word, tricky situation in that this was one whole parcel, meaning the property that was previously subdivided extended across Selfridge Road, including this property that was one tax map number. However, they did their subdivision of the property across Selfridge Road and on Hatchery, the one we dealt with last year. But in the tax mapping system, the numbering hasn't caught up yet. It takes several months for those numbers to be recorded. And so that hasn't happened. So, you know, technically speaking, this was one whole lot. We had the prior subdivision of the other portion last year, and now we have this portion this year. They will be 8 separate distinct lots, but it is of the same original parent parcel. So to the extent that's helpful, that's the situation.
I guess the reason I ask is I thought there were a couple of times that comments were made, well, we don't have to do that because this is only a 4-lot subdivision. We don't have to do this because it's only a 4-lot subdivision. But specifically, if this is the case, then last year's subdivision was actually a 5-lot subdivision, including this parcel.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Now we're doing this one as only a 4-lot subdivision, but technically it's part of the previous 5-lot subdivision, which would make it part of an 8-lot subdivision. So I don't know if that triggers something different that we're somehow getting around because the road was there. But that's the only reason I asked that. I had another comment. I don't really have a problem with shared driveways, and I understand the purpose of them. Each time we do one of these shared driveways, it seems to be there's something new. In this case, this is the first time I've seen a shared driveway where the shared driveway at a significant portion of it ends up completely on one parcel. In fact, so far onto the parcel that the property owner is going to own property on both sides of the shared driveway. And that's the lot we're calling lot number 8. And this driveway curves to go up the hill, and at a certain point, there's actually land on the other side of the driveway that lot number 8 owns on both sides of the driveway. I don't know if some way to redraw the map where the flagpole things follow the driveway or not, if that's just logistically impossible or not necessary. If nobody else has a problem with it, then it's okay. But it appears that lot number 8 doesn't even need to use the shared driveway. They could actually have an access driveway right off of the, what would end up being the southeast corner or southwest corner, where they could actually have a driveway go up a fairly gradual slope up to where the house lot would be and not even need to be part of it. And yet they have the driveway wholly on their property for a good couple, well, at least a good 100 feet. So just an observation I had. Don't know that I'm for or against it or if it's something that's necessary. Something I noticed on it.
I saw that too. The only thing I thought that might come into play, and I'll let Matt answer this as a surveyor. If we take some of that property off of that one lot, you know, as John suggested, I can see why you would say that. Does that drop us down under the 5 acre minimum, you know, for the district?
Yes, so we did draw it out with the 5 acre minimum in mind. And while it may be feasible to put a driveway in a different location on lot 8 there, given that the driveway is existing, it wouldn't necessarily make sense to build a whole new driveway again when it already exists. So that's kind of our thought process on that one.
There's some significant improvements that are going to be necessary for that current driveway, Matt, right? I mean, if you actually look at the driveway that's existing there?
Yes. I mean, to bring it up to the standard that we're showing, it will certainly have to be improved, yes. But the improvements will be a whole lot easier than starting new construction in a different area.
Okay, so then moving the driveways out. And I'm assuming that we haven't tried moving the lot lines, so at least the driveway somewhat is more on the other. I mean, I guess my thing is it appears that the person who doesn't even need this shared driveway is going to have a substantially large portion of it on their property. I mean, they could choose to use it, but technically that's the only lot on that property that doesn't need a shared driveway. That one could have its own driveway to Selfridge Road.
Yes, but economically, of course, it would still make more sense to use the shared driveway. And it was more in the interest of keeping somewhat regular lots, if you will, that driveway, you know, existing in its current form kind of lands on lot 8, if you will, because we didn't want to create, you know, crazy irregular lines or anything like that. You know, this way it can be marked out very well, and whomever purchases that lot will certainly be aware of, you know, the fact that a significant portion of the driveway is on their property. So, you know, it's not like something that they get blindsided with at least.
Right.
Yeah, I think that the point that John makes is valid, and I understand what you tried to accomplish, Matt. In a similar vein, if you look at, for example, lot 7 requires access of the shared driveway across lots 5 and 8, and lot 5 requires access across 8 and 7. So again, I think it's just a shade different than some of the shared driveways that we had been working on in the past in terms of the impact that access to a lot will have on adjacent landowners.
Yeah, and I guess, Ron, I had missed the fact that at one point the driveway is actually wholly on lot 5 also.
Yeah, no, I thought of what you were talking about, John, at the same time, because, you know, lot 8 basically requires lot 5, and if you look at lot 5, it has a very similar scenario as what you described on 8.
It's really a shared driveway.
It's very much so a shared driveway in the truest sense of the word. Yeah. And I don't know, I guess we probably would need the help from Carla at some point to take a fresh look at the shared driveway language, the agreement, to make certain that it addresses these different levels of impact that one lot has on the other. It might be fine, but we haven't had this kind of intertwining of lots to share a driveway as we have in this case.
Yeah, I can look at that. And I had sent Matt back in October what we've used for the shared driveway language before. And that's what he put in on the maps. But I can definitely look at that and see for future, and maybe this is something we deal with the zoning code too, as we go through that, future issues with shared driveways.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about the physical configuration. I think this can be, the language and the legality can be worked out in the deed language and so on and so forth. However, I do think it is a reasonable concern and expectation that the grading of this lot, of this driveway, be established as planned with the first building permit. Because there's quite a bit of grading going on there, and that should all be established and finished, with the first permit. So we make sure that driveway is installed correctly for the first, because lot one, the first lot may sell in year one, and the remaining lots might not sell for 5 years. And that driveway should be properly, installed as planned.
I guess, Jim, just to also go back to the point that John was initially raising, if we looked at this from the standpoint of, okay, let's consider an 8-lot subdivision for argument's sake. 2 questions would be: one, did we miss anything on the first phase, if you will, on the west side of Selfridge Road? And question 2 would be: is there any other flag that we want to get raised that we haven't talked about for the second phase on the east side? I know it would be the DOH, right? But they don't have jurisdiction in lots greater than 5 acres, so.
Right, and so, yeah, that's normally the first thing you think of, but given the increase from 4 to 8, there's really no, in this particular case, there's no requirements that are invoked that normally, or would have been, had it been 8 from the outset instead of 4 and 4. We're not extending a water district, we're not extending a sewer district. Traffic impact is nominal, so I can't think of any element of this that's impacted by, not doing this from an 8-lot from the outset. It's just, given the circumstances, it's half a dozen, 6 the other. It's really no impact that I can see.
Well, the only impact potentially would be that we don't have the authority to waive the requirement of separation preliminary and final when it's more than 4 lots. Now, this thing has sat here for, and again, not their fault or ours, because of this, whatever's going on. It would require a separation, which if we decide to approve tonight based on only a 4, then we can do it. If it's part of an 8, we can't do it tonight. You can't approve. You can do preliminary, but you can't do final.
It's the same meeting.
Well, maybe that's an input we need from council.
Carla, any thoughts on that? You're muted, Carla. Sorry.
That's because I'm looking at this on a different computer here. I'm wondering what the repercussions would be if you were to approve it tonight. I mean, this is the first time I've heard of the eighth issue. Is that something that was brought up with the prior one? I wasn't at those meetings.
No, it was not. Because it wasn't known at that time that this property was going to be subdivided.
Right, so you can't really go back and do anything with respect to that. So that's kind of its own separate project. That's done and over with. So I would look at this as a different project. And I don't know as if I see any issues with you approving it tonight if that's what the board intends on doing. But I think in the future, this is something we really need to look into.
Well, it's a kind of a rare case because you have you have a lot here that's got frontage on two different roads, and the lot area is bifurcated by the one
Right.
road.
Right.
It's kind of rare.
Well, you also have to be careful that we don't do this in the future, because you can't, if you're going to do seeker on both of these, you can't segment.
Right.
I guess that was my concern, is at least looking forward, we need to be more careful. There tends to be a sentiment that this would be considered, or the first project was considered a 4-lot subdivision with, quote, remaining lands. Okay, and I think at the last time that came up, we made it very clear that those remaining lands constitute a lot.
Well, I guess
5-lot, not a 4.
Well, that's how it should be. It would be a 5-lot subdivision.
Right, but at the time we approved the prior one, I was never aware or made aware, none of the maps that we had included this parcel as a portion of the project, okay, or as a connected lands in any way. I know they were both owned by the same owner. I didn't know they were on the same tax map or same tax parcel. So, I mean, it's along with planning the individual subdivision, we're kind of planning the land use. That's part of our purview. That's what we're supposed to do. And that land use would include what was determined to be remaining lands. And in this case, those remaining lands were already considered to be subdivided in the future. So I don't see where it has any real bearing on this particular plan in front of us tonight. Other than the fact that it probably should have been addressed originally. So that's all. I mean, it showed up in the lot numbers, and that's what I wondered at the time. So.
Board members, anything else further? Any other questions from the board members on the line? Any other information that you need?
Have we had any feedback from, fire or anybody on their, on what they think about this driveway and the adequacy of it?
No, they have not been approached about that. Have they, Matt?
So we, as far as I know, we haven't had any specific conversations with fire, but we did include the same standard turnarounds as you are supposed to have with a driveway of this length, of course. And again, with meeting the grade requirements, we don't see any issue there. We also discussed a driveway permit at the last meeting, and it is my understanding from the owner that this was a permitted driveway at the time when it was put in. And so I have contacted the highway department. Unfortunately, they weren't able to pull their records today, but they are supposed to be coordinating with Jim and myself to find that driveway permit to make sure that this was a permitted driveway. And if not, of course, that would be a condition of the approval that would be, of course, acceptable to us, that a driveway permit be established for the signing of the final map.
Matt, what's the length of that driveway to lot number, the determination at lot number 6? Not to
I
the house,
don't
but
actually have that information in front of me. I can make sure that gets on the map, though.
It looks like it's about 500 feet, John.
that's kind of what I thought. So,
Just eyeballing it.
so you do have some substantial improvements that need to be made to the existing driveway.
That's why I said I think this needs to be a case where with the first building permit, that driveway be graded and fully installed with the first building permit.
Because that meets that threshold that the state requires, the larger width and the height clearances and everything else, so that fire trucks or fire apparatus can actually get in, not just hoses run from the road. It's anything more than 300 feet. So.
Okay.
Ready for the public hearing? Or?
Yeah, hearing no further comments or questions at this time. We will go ahead.
I just have, Ron, I just have one question. The whole thing 2 months ago, we got talking about the order of events. So I'm assuming that it's been established that seeker is after public comment?
That's what I was gonna ask council for input on.
We actually
Yes.
go ahead, Carla, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. This is something that has come up in a couple places. Different places do it different ways. And I know that we talked about it when we were out at the Planning and Zoning Conference way back, God, it almost seems like years ago, but back in February, I think it was. It is a little backwards, but you actually should do seeker now. Make your determination now, open your public hearing, hold your public hearing, close your public hearing, and then if you have a seeker issue, you can revisit it and reopen seeker. To me, it seems a little backwards, but that's the way it's supposed to be done. And I think it might make a little bit more sense for you guys to do it that way, just from the cases that are out.
Okay, Carla, thank you.
We're good at part two. Do you have a part two?
I do. Well, I'll take another one. Are you going to grab one?
Yep.
Just give us 1 minute. We're going to move into the short environmental assessment form, and then from there we'll move on in terms of process to the public hearing. I'll give the folks on the line a chance to pull out their secret form.
We're supposed to close the public hearing before seeker. Is that what they said? They told us to do?
No, the opposite.
Yeah,
The opposite. It doesn't make any sense, but that's the way that the cases are saying we should do it.
that's the way we have been doing it. Yeah.
I think what Pete's asking is we have an open public hearing right now.
No, I didn't open the public
No,
hearing.
he hasn't opened it yet.
Oh, okay, all right.
Oh, I'm wrong. I thought you had, so.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thanks. Did you get one? Okay. So just as a matter of clarity, and in terms of process, we are going to move through the short environmental assessment form first, make our determination, and then we'll open the public hearing. So this is the short environmental assessment review for the Gardner-Congdon project, which is also known as North Range Brook at Selfridge Road. I'll start by asking board members, after they take a moment to review part one, if you have any questions, if you need clarity, or if there's any other edits that you'd like to see to part one of the short environmental assessment form.
A minor detail, I don't know if it matters, but the name of the project is different on the part one form, and we're now referencing it.
Selfridge Road.
Yeah, the name that's referenced on part one for the project is the Selfridge Road subdivision. I guess Matt, representing the applicant, are you okay with us changing that to North Range Brook at Selfridge Road?
Yes.
So. Any other questions or edits to the board members in the room? Any of the board members on the line have any questions or edits?
No.
Oh, all set.
I'm good.
From there, we'll move on to part 2 of the short environmental assessment form for North Branch Brook at Selfridge Road. Part 2 is completed in this case, and we will answer questions as it relates to the North Branch Brook project, and the choices are no or small impact or moderate to large impact. Question 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
No.
Question 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
Small impact.
No.
No or small?
No.
Number 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area?
No.
Nope.
5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
No.
6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
Small.
Small. 7, will the proposed action impact existing A, public or private water utilities?
No.
B, public or private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
No.
Number 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
No.
9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, for example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
No.
No.
10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
No.
Small.
Small.
11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
No.
Following part 2, we move on to part 3, which is your determination of significance for the North Branch Brook at Selfridge Road.
I move we declare a negative declaration for the environmental assessment for North Branch Brook and Selfridge Road.
I have a motion by Peter with a second by Alan that we issue a negative declaration for the short environmental assessment form for North Branch Brook at Selfridge Road. Any further discussion? Would you call the roll, please, Trish?
You gotta unmute yourself, Trish. Trish, you're muted still.
All right.
There you go.
There you are.
I'm gonna try to stay in the same order that I would do it at a meeting, since I don't know where anybody's sitting. So Mr. Bouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Van Tassel,
Yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Shaver,
Yes.
and Mr. Jensen.
Yes.
And Ms. Purdue is there, or is she on the board tonight?
Yes, she's on.
Okay.
Yes.
Who seconded the motion?
There was a motion by Peter and a second by Alan.
Thank you.
Oh, I guess I stand corrected, she may not be.
I don't think that.
No, Ann's not on the board, I'm sorry, that would be 8.
Thank
So
you.
we have 8 yeses.
Yeah, But I am on the board and I say yes.
Mr.
So
Zimmerman.
the motion carries. So, all right, so I'll get this populated here for us in just a second. And now, with that, we'll move on to the public hearing.
All right, I'm going to post a comment. I just said, I'm saying, any comments from attendees as the chairman is about to open the public hearing, please send a note and let me know if there are any questions. So that's what I'm posting.
We also opened with that statement, Jim. I don't know if now is a good time to repeat it for folks.
Probably would.
Just joining or maybe joined a little bit late. But as we stated prior, as we open the public hearing, this is an application for a 4-lot subdivision with frontage on 330 to 360 Selfridge Road, tax map parcel number 77-2-44.11. We have just now opened the public hearing. If you wish to be heard, please raise your hand if you're on the video call or state question if you're on the phone. We will allow everyone who wishes to speak to do so. If you wish to provide your name, please do. If you do not want to provide your name, you are not obligated to do so. Please address any comments or questions to the board and speak slowly. You may also use the chat feature on the video and type your question. After the public hearing is closed, we will not accept any further comments. And as an additional option, you can also call the town hall at 518-792-1030, extension 222, and we can receive your question or your comment that way. While we progress through the public hearing, we will maintain a sense of decorum. And again, we would just reiterate and ask that folks please address your questions to the board. So with that, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
And I do have one written comment in response to the request I put out. It says, I believe the driveway never had a culvert under the roadway and wasn't permitted.
Was that from a member of the public or was that from?
That was from a member of the public.
Okay.
Deborah.
Okay.
Hey, Ron,
Yes.
I might intercede for just a moment. I may have misunderstood something you just said, and I'm not sure if you were reading it from like our revised rules for a public hearing or something.
Yeah.
Did you say that the people making comments do not have to give their name?
Correct.
Don't we usually ask the people commenting at a public hearing to state their name for record-keeping purposes only?
Correct. We asked for their name and address.
I can pop in. Ron, if you want me to pop in on this one.
Please.
Yes, that's something that you can ask, but they are not required to give it to you under the open meetings law. And that's something that people have been telling us, you know, throughout all of this COVID stuff, that if people don't want to, they don't have to, but you can ask. That's just up to you. We just thought it was easier to let people know ahead of time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And we did have another comment just come in from Thomas Rourke. So just to confirm, the 4 lots will all just have access via the current but updated driveway? Question. That's a question.
So I guess to both of those questions or comments for Matt, for you as applicant's representative, do you have any thoughts or do you wish to respond to either of those?
Yes. So as far as the driveway being permitted, again, I'm waiting to hear back from the highway department to confirm the existence of a permit. And again, if they can't find it, we are perfectly content with the approval being conditional upon getting a driveway permit. So I think that addresses that one. And yes, I can confirm that all 4 lots will have access via the current but updated driveway.
And I know in terms of the culvert, that is something that's up to the highway department. They do a site visit before they issue the permit, and they determine, you know, the lay of the land there, and if they think a culvert is appropriate, they will specify as such, and the driveway won't be permitted until the culvert's installed, if that is in fact a requirement.
Okay. Any further questions or comments for this application?
Deborah wrote in again, I have no problem with the development, but the water from this I have no problem with the development, but the water from his driveway runs down to ours. I know the ends of the driveway show a culvert, but doesn't go all the way under.
So that's something that requires additional investigation, I guess.
Right, and I think what can happen as a result of this driveway permitting process is that that situation should be rectified and corrected.
Be remedied.
Right. And Matt, would you be so kind as when you do inquire about the permit, specifically ask about the need for a culvert or fixing the one that's there?
Absolutely, yes.
And that's something I can follow up to with Paul myself.
Okay, thank you, Jim. We'll allow a little bit more of a pause in this case, just given the nature of, what we're up against, to make sure that we've allowed ample pause, ample time for folks to check in if they're having trouble or if the technology isn't being cooperative.
It seems to be working.
Yeah, no, I didn't
have
think
3 written comments, so.
It's a little.
You want me to type in a message for any?
Sure.
For, okay, I'm saying any other further comments, question mark. This is actually working out pretty well.
Don't.
Yeah, oh, sorry. You're right. You're absolutely right. Deborah said no, thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for your question and comment.
Yeah, thank you for those who
And
participated.
also, was it Thomas?
Thomas Rourke.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas.
And she said, no, you're welcome.
A sense of decorum.
What was that?
I didn't hear that, Jerry. Can you say again?
I said she has a sense of decorum.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Tom Rourke also said you are welcome. So it sounds like those 2 people, they don't have any additional further comments or questions.
About enough time that everybody can allow for. All right.
Okay, I'm going to type in then, well, you do it first and I'll type it in.
Yep. As we get ready to close the public hearing, we'd like to ask one last question of anybody that has participated or folks that are interested or following along the application. Are they aware of any concerns on the site where it might glow in the dark? And I don't think we've gotten any feedback to that sort. So we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for the North Branch Brook at Selfridge Road. Fellow board members, any additional questions, information that you might need, or what would you like to do next with this application? We had a few items, or I guess a few conditions, if you will, at this point, that we'd like to try to make sure that they are addressed moving forward. I don't know, Jim, if you wanted to try to recapture what you have, or if you want I know sometimes Jerry's usually following along to try to help with putting some of those together as well.
I have a list here. I don't mind reviewing them, and Jim, you see if this matches what you had. I have for the conditions that I heard mentioned during this are that we need to see an erosion and sediment control plan. We need address numbers put on the final plat that's submitted for signature. The entire subdivision, it would be approved with the condition that a driveway permit is obtained. and that the driveway shall be improved to the final design requirements no later than completion of the work covered by the first building permit issued for this project. I was trying to come up with words that captured that. A couple other things I noticed. I think we need to add the zoning info to this map. I don't see anywhere where we state on here that it's what the zoning is that this parcel is in. And we're missing a property owner to the southwest corner, I think just south of Thomas Rourke. Seems like that's an adjacent property. At least on the map I have, I can't see it.
That matches my list, and I think you worded it pretty well when it came to the completion of the driveway. That's a condition of the first building permit.
Now, I do have a question because there's a driveway detail shown on this map, but I really cannot read it. I've tried to take my phone and zoom in on it, and I think it's just the quality of the copy reduced, etc. But regardless of that, I'm not certain that driveway detail meets whatever the real requirement is for this, given the overall length of the driveway. It looks like it's 18 feet wide if I'm squinting and putting in an extra contact lens.
Well, he has indicated a 10-foot gravel drive on the plan in the middle
I think
of
that's the existing one, right?
Matt, what's the plan for that? I think it might be a good idea to give us some better detail here.
Yep. If I might, or if I may, we have that's just the detail for an ASHTO low volume road. And so the existing drive would be improved to that low volume road, which it is our understanding that is the standard for a private right-of-way like this, if you will. But we can certainly clarify that detail on the final plat. That's not a problem.
And just so you hear me say it, I would clarify that first with your client.
Yeah. Yes.
And I might point out that because of the length of the driveway, that may not necessarily be the minimum requirement anymore. I believe because of the length, it bumps it up to a 20-foot. And I believe it has certain criteria as far as what can be over the length of the clearing, as far as having 13 feet of clearance over the top of it and things like that. So that's a state code, that's not ours.
Understood.
I wondered, Jerry, if there wasn't a comment earlier about the fact that we hadn't had any contact with fire about this access way. And if I think the applicant's representative said that it would be okay if that was a contingent on the approval, and I would agree that that probably should be on there. Just judging by the grade of the road and the condition of it.
I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you, John. We'll add that one to the list. Anything further, board? Any other notes, edits?
I have nothing further, but I will admit that it's, as I said earlier, it's difficult. I understand why, the scale of the map, et cetera, given these circumstances. And I did try to look at the electronic one and zoom around online. And I'd hate to think that I missed something that I didn't see in the electronic format, but I don't think I did miss anything. So I'm comfortable as presented.
Well, board, what would you like to do next?
There's a motion that we move the project, North Branch Brook and Sulphur Road forward with clear notation of all the stipulations that were mentioned.
I think there's 8, Ron, yeah?
So I have a motion for preliminary approval, I guess is what you were suggesting, Alan. Motion for preliminary approval for the North Branch Brook subdivision at Selfridge Road with the conditions that were previously referenced. Do I have a second? Do you need me to, I'm sorry, do I have a second?
Second.
And a second by Mike. I guess as further discussion, would you like me to try to annotate those, I guess, eight items? Or?
It is helpful because I'll do a notice of decision to the applicant, so.
Okay.
It's nice to have me annotated.
I'll do my best to try to get those back to all of you, and if I miss any, please don't hesitate to chime in. The first one is that we would need to see an erosion and sediment control plan. We need to see the address numbers on the final plat. We will need a driveway permit be obtained for this shared driveway. We will need to see that the driveway design requirements must be met at the issuance of the building permit for the first lot. And we will also, as part of that, need to verify that the driveway design requirements meet the state code for the distance to the furthest lot. We'll need the property owner for the lot just south of Thomas Rourke on the west side of Selfridge Road to be provided. We will need to have the shared driveway as proposed to be reviewed and approved by the fire department. Any further discussion?
There's one other, was having the zoning info.
Oh, yeah. The zoning district information on there.
Thanks, I'm sorry.
For the R5 district. Matt, are you okay with those conditions?
Yes.
Okay, and specifically on that driveway, I think that's going to translate to an added detail on the drawing for the driveway cross-section and the makeup of that meets that state standard.
Yep.
And so depth of gravel, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Board, any further comments or questions?
Nope.
No.
Trish, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bouchard?
Yes.
Mr. Van Tassel?
Yes.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Bergman?
Yes.
Mr. Shaver?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Chair?
Yes, I shall concur. The motion carries. What else would you like to do tonight, board? If anything.
We have the waiver request for the final approval as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that this was all properly marked and noted, right? The advertised, the signs were up, all that good stuff, right?
Yes. Verification from Matt?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we can make a motion to grant final. We're clear to do that.
Waive the requirement.
We have to make a motion to waive the requirement first, Eric, and then as a separate motion, then we would ask folks how they feel about final.
All right, I make a motion to waive the requirement for preliminary and final approval to be at separate meetings for the North Branch Brook subdivision.
The motion to waive the separation of the preliminary and final approval for the North Branch Brook subdivision. I have a motion by Eric. Do I have a second?
So,
I'll second.
Alan beat you, Jerry. So I have a second by Alan. Any further discussion? Not too controversial. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? I shall concur. Motion carries. Now, if we wanted to do something for final approval, you'd be able to do that.
All right, make a motion, we grant final approval for the North Branch Brook subdivision with the comments as noted.
To the motion that for final approval for the North Ranch Brook subdivision at Selfridge Road with the conditions that were referenced during the preliminary approval by Eric. Do I have a second?
Second.
You got it that time, Jerry. Any further discussion? Trish, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bouchard,
Yes.
Mr. Van Tassel,
yes.
Mr. Arnold,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes,
Mr. Shaver,
Yes.
Mr. Jensen,
Yes.
Chair.
Yes, I shall agree. The motion carries. We're almost there.
One more.
How about one more motion?
I'll make a motion to have the chairman and one member of the board sign the final plats when presented.
To the motion that the chairman and one other planning board member sign the final Mylars when presented by Jerry. Do I have a second?
second.
Second by Eric. Any further discussion? It's not too controversial. All those in favor, aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? I shall agree. The motion carries.
Clarification. Was Jerry's aye to disapprove, or is it just like getting in on approval?
Jerry, were you saying aye as in yes, you were approving, or what was your?
Yes. Aye. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's bad internet over here.
For the applicant, Matt, any further questions or discussion for us?
Matt, are you all set?
Yep, I'd just like to thank the board for all of their input on this, and just thanks for making this happen despite the current circumstances.
All right, Matt, thanks for hanging in there.
All right, I'm gonna take you out, Matt.
Taking you home.
Have a good evening.
You too.
We'll take just a very brief pause while Jim wrestles with our connections to get us prepped and ready for our next agenda item tonight, which is Keystone Novelties Distributors. They have an application for a site plan review on Route 9.
Part two for this, and then I also just made a note to.
Yeah, perfect. Keith, are you there? Keith Lambert? Keith?
Might be muted.
No, I unmuted him. Keith?
Shows up on the list of panelists.
Yeah, he's active. I don't know if he just walked away from his computer or.
You can do that?
What happens when you allow third line computers?
Well, Jim jinxed it.
If I got near it, I would have jinxed it.
Keith is contacting us.
Okay. Yeah, he's okay, hold on. What's that number again, for, you might be calling in on the phone, we
Oh,
might.
it's, the number again to call in is 518-792-1030, extension 222.
Keith just messaged that he was calling in on the line, on the phone
Yeah.
line.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 792.
Yeah, 518-792-1030.
How about you answer that?
Hello, Keith. Hi, is this Keith Lambert? Hi, Keith, this is Ron Zimmerman with the planning board. We now have you on speakerphone and on the PA, so hopefully that's working for folks. So.
Well, there's a other line I can give you on my phone, but you couldn't hear me talking, so I don't know that one.
Okay, our apologies for that. And again, I appreciate your patience with our attempts to review through your application tonight, or the start of the application tonight.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having us. I appreciate you.
Well, Keith, maybe if you don't mind, what we could do, the board members have a copy of your application dated April 7th, 2020, listed as Keystone Novelties Distributors LLC, and it references a site location of 1315 Route 9 in the town of Moreau. If you don't mind, maybe give us a bit of a background on what it is that you hope to do.
Last year, we were installed the New York legal site of the 1315 Route 9. We open every day, basically from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. On third and fourth, we'll be open from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the day of June 25th to July 5th. We have the sign lease with the property owners. We have the farm map that shows the potential location of the property. We have a tent layout that's also included, liability versus certificate, and I believe it can be mailed in as a check as well. We also put up those working signs, exit signs with all the red points, have 2 fire extinguishers. So we have needed all times from the trash removal daily to the primary. We have another portable generator, we have white that will be on just during those hours, and a portable toilet will be delivered for the court in the tank, which we pick up at the end of the day. Did you get our COVID compliance program that we have?
I don't think that I did, Keith.
I'm checking,
Was
here.
it like an operating procedure?
I was applied for this, and we started including these COVID compliance summary of the operating procedures in all our applications and apply to this before we finalize the operating procedures. But I just wanted to kind of basically this if you don't have it. So the operating plan with all federal states and requirements directly representing states and United States of the operating. Each local jurisdiction may require additional procedures beyond those listed below. Our staff will be managers will be in place to adjust as needed. Any questions or concerns directed to our COVID-19 compliance manager and give the phone number. Federal legal wireless tents include the following policy and procedure. There will be a social distance sign that will be set up at the tent posted that says policy CDC social distance guidelines, they at least 6 feet, 2 meters apart from each other, so basically 2 people standing apart with their foot in the middle. And then our limit the low volume of customers. Based on our experience conducting retail tent sales over the past 20 years, we do not expect that social distancing will require significant procedural changes needed to limit the patrons of our tent. However, our retail sales personnel are instructed to enforce capacity limitations as needed in detail below to ensure 15 square feet of space per shop, while accounting for the floor space occupied by 5 employees back in 10. So basically, here's an example. This tent, I believe, is a 20-foot by 40-foot tent, which is 800 square feet. Under normal conditions, we have 53 people that would be within the capacity of the tent. The COVID-19 that to be enforced, the capacity will be 20 people. So reduce this by more than half. The tested face mask will be provided for all retail sales personnel and are required to use while the retail tent is open for customers. And sanitizer will be used to checkout monitor used by customers and retail sales personnel. One-way customer traffic each zone sales location is configured for customers enters through one main entrance to proceed in a one-way circulation pattern around finishing at the check counter. Contact with the credit card machine will be used at all locations while will eliminate signatures typically required during the checkout process. Additional procedure will be implemented as needed based on local guidelines and jurisdiction directed for outdoor retail sales. So that's basically our COVID-19 operating procedure.
And thank you very much, Keith, for reading that for us. It's basically part of our record now. Could you just give me the title of that document again?
It's called the COVID-19 Compliance Program Summary of Key Operating Procedures.
COVID-19 Compliance Program Summary of
Key Operating Procedures. And this will be given to all of our clerks and our managers. It will be listed there and posted for everyone to we're going to do like a training session for everyone as well.
So would you be able to send us over a copy of that? I don't think that any of the board members nor Jim Martin, our zoning administrator, has a copy of that at this time.
Okay, yeah, no, like I said, we were the process putting together, and possibly we had sent it in when we first applied for it. I don't know exactly when we applied for it, but we could definitely send that over.
Now, given that this is an operation that, at the end of the day, has a New York State permit that goes with it, is somebody at the state level reviewing your COVID compliance operational plan as well, or how does that work?
Yeah, so basically what we've done is because we had to contact the state earlier this year because we weren't sure, no one was really sure what was going to happen, and as time progressed, we became little parents and the issue. So when we contacted the state, they ensured that we turn in, so normally they want 45 days. They ensured that we turn everything in by the end of this month, that they will get us our permanent factors in a couple of weeks. Because obviously, we don't know exactly what areas, maybe challenge areas, we're thinking, close to the city, challenge areas for being able to open. I'm not sure if they're going to base it on counties or locally, but the state will obviously be giving us the approval for the different county jurisdictions.
Okay,
And as I recall last year,
Yeah, they're aware of it, they have no issue with what we're doing, it's a matter of what the state and then kind of, you know, dribbles down to the county and then the local level, what the procedures are gonna be at that level. So like, for example, if the county, if this county, like Sarasota County says, we're not allowing any kind of a retail sale or outdoor sale, obviously we're not gonna go operate, so then that's when we will operate. So that's kind of what they're looking at, and I think it's more like Rockland and Winchester County, are the ones that we're looking at.
okay. You had a question?
well, I was just gonna say, as I recall last year when we discussed this, this particular type of retail, even under the, you know, conventional sales, was subject to 24-hour spot checks by the state.
Right.
They had to have somebody on site 24/7, and inspectors could literally show up at 3 o'clock in the morning to check if there was proper security of the merchandise and so on. So I would expect that these COVID procedures are going to be part of that inspection process.
The things that Jim had helped us do was to go back and go through any notes or any issues that were identified during your operation from the 2019 sale, and there wasn't anything that was noted for the board to be advised of or to pay attention to. Is there anything, I mean, at face value, Keith, it looks like the application is essentially the same.
It's the same date, actually, the same plan.
As what you did last year, with the exception, of course, the COVID operating procedures that you just outlined. Is there anything else that you would call out to us that might be different in 2020 as compared to 2019?
No, the only difference from last year is that it was unclear what we needed from the state as far as the curb cut and from the county approvals. And that became clear, it was kind of like a crash course last year. But as long as the entrance is not on the state side, we know what they're looking for, that's not an issue. The entrance is going to be on the county side, the where we apply for the county curb cut with state approved last year, and they've already said no issue at all with us getting this permit, provided that that's in last year.
The only other thing I would point out, Ron, is I think logistically, we got a little bit of an issue here with county planning.
Yeah.
I don't think they've acted on this yet. They will probably do so. I think their meeting actually, believe it or not, is this Thursday. But be that as it may, we're out of sync here.
Yeah.
And the other thing additionally is I didn't know if the board wanted to do a public hearing as you normally do for things on Route 9. Although this is a repeat, we normally do public hearings for Route 9. So I just want to point out that logistical issue with us being, you know, before the county on this one, just the way the dates fell.
As a practical matter, the one other thing that might be a little different. So what are the dates again, Keith? June 25th, 2020 to July 5th?
Correct.
I guess what might you envision or foresee, Jim, in terms of activity on the adjacent site across the road between now and then? I guess it's a little hard to try to envision that maybe, but do you see any other encounters or anything else that might be of concern for the sales that Keystone has proposed, given the activity that might be happening? You know,
There shouldn't be activity until it's approved.
till July.
In July before it's started.
Yeah, I think Peter makes a good point. I think that'll be post, you know, his sales window for this year.
Right. Just a point I started bringing up.
No, that is a good point.
It wasn't anything that you knew that we didn't.
No, you know, I was quite certain that you're going to want to have a public hearing for the next applicant, you know, for the project next to this. So that'll instantly place that into June. So, you know, our next meeting falls early because the Monday is June 1st. So our meeting date in June is June 15th.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't, if Keith's sales aren't until the last week in June, then that's That's a,
Well, I guess that's a board's perspective. How do you feel at this point? This is for board members on the line as well as in the room. For the Keystone Novelties 2020 operation with, against pretty much the same footprint as last year, but the biggest difference being their attention that they'll pay to COVID-19 operations. Do you need a public hearing?
I think we should have a public hearing. Anytime we do anything on Route 9, particularly something like this.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I have a motion by Peter for a public hearing for the Keystone Novelties Distributors on June 15th at 7:01. To the motion, do I have a second?
I can second that.
Second. All right, you got it, John.
I think John got it. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Sure.
Is there going to be any issue with us operating, like, come the 15th, there's going to be some, I mean, outside of what COVID-19 might impose on the state or regional level, there's no one has any real control of, except for the lawmakers. But we have an admin deposits for the tents, for the porta potties, the landlords. We got a lot of money out. Is there any reason why we get moved at that time?
Well, it's, I guess, a little hard for us to, give you an absolute prediction on that, Keith. In this particular case, I think you have good precedent with the overall operations that you had from 2019. The fact that the code enforcement officer didn't have anything listed or referenced on file as being of concern. So again, we would need to go through the public hearing and make sure that there wasn't anything hanging out there that we couldn't envision. But at this point, based on last year's operations, it looks like you'd be in pretty good shape.
Okay, that's something that I guess I was a little confused that I'm gonna have to happen, or is that something that someone's suggesting? Well,
As a matter of principle, whenever we have an application on our, we call it the Route 9 corridor, basically anything in the town of Moreau that is along Route 9, which in this case it is, as a matter of standard operating procedure, we have a public hearing.
Ron?
Ron,
And we have a point from one of our board members on the phone.
I also got a point from Carl I need to share too.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Go ahead, John. You go first, and then I'm gonna read Carla's comment in.
Okay, so I just wanted to, I realize that whenever we have a change of use, we have an applicant that comes in front of us, and then we have a public hearing if it's on Route 9. Is this specifically a change of use? Considering the last use on this property was this exact use?
No, it's not a change of use, but the approval last year was time specific. It was limited to 3 weeks.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted to clarify and make sure that that was the case. As far as, because then it would make you wonder whether you need to have a public hearing if it wasn't a change of use. But if it is time specific, then that makes sense.
And then I just want to read what Carla wrote here for everybody's benefit. Folks, just an FYI, this would likely be a phase 1 opening as curbside retail, but would have to figure that out under New York state law, not Pennsylvania law. So people can't wander through. They need to know what they want if we are only at that stage. Please know that New York state requires all businesses to have a specific reopening plan on site, but it is not approved by the state or county DOH. And then she also said she couldn't understand what he was saying relative to COVID because of the speaker issue. So maybe Ron, if you could summarize for Carla basically what he was saying about COVID.
Yeah, what the document referenced, essentially, Carla, was what operating procedure customers would have to experience when they were inside the tent, and what the personnel, the staff members of Keystone would have to be doing as they work through, the day-to-day operations. I guess one of the things that I could offer to do if you wanted, in order to get a better quality read of that back into the record, I could ask Keith to email it to me and then I could read it. Would that be better?
If you could just have him email it, but it sounds like we're gonna have a public hearing on it anyway. I just want the applicant to be made aware that if you go to I think it's businessexpress.newyork.gov, New York State has a tool for all the businesses, and it gives them all of the information they have to fill out, and it gives them a form they have to fill out and they have to affirm to have on site. So I don't know if, he has a letter that he read into you, or if it's a Pennsylvania form, but this New York State has a specific form that has to be filled out and kept on site. I just want the applicant to be made aware of that. And that, this is, if we make it to phase 1 and we're in phase 1, this would be curbside retail. That's how I would read it, is curbside retail. And that's really just go in, pick up and leave. That's not kind of wander through. But that could change tomorrow, so who knows?
I have a lot of feedback. I really did not, the last couple of people, I couldn't quite hear. I'm sorry.
What our attorney is pointing out is that there's a very specific operation plan that would need to be put into effect in New York State in this case for what's considered phase 1 curbside retail. So there's specific language and kind of a template that we would need to follow if at this point, if by June 25th, 2020, we were in fact able to see your business open up, then it would need to follow this prescription.
Tell Ron, Carla referenced a website. I will email that website to him tomorrow morning, and he can download the form.
There's a specific website that our attorney referenced, Keith, that Jim Martin is going to email to you in the morning, and it gives you the template or the form that you need to fill out. So we'll get that over to you tomorrow.
Okay, I'm going to say COVID compliance right now. I have the email here. I'll send it over to you.
Okay, thanks. We'll make sure that the full board and our attorney has a chance to look at that as well.
We certainly have a lot of time in this intervening period here to work these things out and make sure we understand, the opening and the operating procedures under, the special considerations. So.
And again, I guess what I would also try to do is remind the board that as the planning board, our specific purview is the site plan review. So back to your original question, while this, this nature of your business and the licensure that goes with it, the permit under New York State, will likely have some other requirements that will help you make sure you fill out. The specific nature, the layout, the operation, that'll be the purview and the focus of this board tonight. And then at the public hearing, which we still are in the middle of an active motion and we're having comments right now for the public hearing that we're trying to set for June 15th, 2020 at 7:01.
Okay, all right.
Any further discussion?
So Ron, we're on to comments for the application in front of us.
No, not yet. I'm trying to see if we still think that we want to have a public hearing. I have a motion by Peter and a second by John Arnold for 7:01 on June 15th. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains? The motion carries. Now you can go ahead with thoughts or comments for the site plan, John.
The only one that I had is, and this is maybe one to Jim as our interpreter of the code. Is the volume and size of the signs on this applicant any concern to our sign law and our code?
Yes.
Because it seems that it exceeds it voluminously.
Yes.
Okay.
So certainly he's going to have to apply for a sign permit, and we can't have the degree of signage as illustrated in one of those photos.
Okay. Because I mean, even if it's temporary signs, we tell the other businesses up and down Route 9 that they can't have certain temporary signs of certain sizes or whatever.
Correct.
And it's kind of, it would be rude to allow a temporary applicant to come in for 3 weeks and just blow out the sign code. So.
Right.
Otherwise, that's really all I had. As long as this is set up the same as it was last year, I heard no negative impact from anybody in the community about it. So I don't have any other further comments. As long as the only thing, as far as the COVID thing goes, a lot of this doesn't fall under our purview unless the applicant's going to have to change his site plan to accommodate curbside pickup. If we have to then change our parking arrangement or something like that, then that would be a different story. So it might behoove the applicant to look into those rules and what could come down the pike as far as if it's only a level 1 opening, what might need to be changed.
Yeah, I was going to say, John.
To that, Keith, but what one of our board members was saying was that, you know, if it does turn out that this is a level 1 curbside business only, then we might need to ask you to look at and consider how you might actually lay out your site to accommodate that, which would be a lot different than the way you operated last year, right? Where folks just pulled in, they parked, they came in the tent, they shopped, and then they left. If you do have to lay it out to allow for drive-through or curbside pickup, it would obviously have an implication on your site plan.
If that happens, we have over 100 locations in New York, so we have a lot of work cut out for it, but that's just something that we're going to look at for all locations. They're all kind of in the same boat, but we'll definitely have a plan for that.
Okay. I'm sorry, someone else was trying to make a point or a question. Was it you, Jared?
Yeah, my only comment was going to be that if something similar to John, if something in our guidance for reopening requires them to have a larger tent, so he has, you know, more distance between displays, that same type impact. So, you know, that would be the only thing I would be looking at to change. Maybe his site plan would be a larger tent.
Okay. So one other comment there, Keith, was, again, if there is the need to change your overall site operation as it relates to curbside pickup, then potential might exist that you need to have a different configuration, different style, or perhaps a larger tent as part of that as well.
Okay, yeah, whenever today, well, I'm gonna speak with our team, we'll come up with another plan. And I mean, I don't know how it would work for your meeting, but if we know by then, we hopefully we do, we can go with one plan or the other. But I don't know how it would work as far as the open hearing goes.
So in your particular case, our cutoff for submission for any revisions to your site plan, your most up-to-date operating procedures, to want to include a copy of this form that we're going to send over to you tomorrow. What's the date that needs to be in by, Jim?
It would be June 1st.
You need to have that into us by June 1st.
Okay, no problem.
Ron, I didn't necessarily hear everything that he said on the phone. I was just going to make a recommendation. If he thought he might have to have a revised parking layout or something like that, he could actually turn that in even if they aren't sure they're going to have to use it, right? Just have the on hand in case.
Yeah. What the thought is, Keith, or what the comment was by John, our board member, is that, you know, it's okay if you want to submit a site plan as a contingency plan, right? Because you might not definitively know by June 1st which direction it's going to go. But if you wanted to be extra prepared, you could submit a contingency plan, you know, for how your site would operate, layout, what your tent configuration would be if it was curbside pickup only. That way you'd be covered.
Okay, that was just an ask that question. That's great. Yep, no, totally understand and appreciate that.
Board, anything further that you need from Keith at this point?
What about notifying fire? Are they gonna notify them, or do we?
I think that's part of the state permitting.
The question, Keith, as part of your permitting process, Does this get notified with a review by our local fire department?
I got to look at last year's, packet, but I believe the state handled all that. In New York, specifically, the state handled all inspections and everything. There's very few towns that the local fire marshal gets involved.
We just might need your help with that, Jim, to make sure that that's
Okay.
coordinated, okay?
Yep.
Just so they know, that's all.
Yep.
Just probably a simple phone call will take care of that. Thank you, Jim.
Every single state stepped in.
I think that's accurate. I think your memory is correct, Peter, too, that, we just wanted to make sure that it was
State fire tied off. And then the 24-hour security is going to be there too. We're gonna have a security guard at night when they're closed.
Yeah, I think they have somebody on site 24 hours.
Do you have somebody on site at night, Keith, while you're not selling, while it's closed, or how does that work from a security perspective?
Give me 1 second. We changed a couple things back here. Hold on, we double check there.
I think we required that last year, didn't we?
I think it was part of the state permit
I think so.
as well.
Just one.
Okay, yeah, we'll have somebody there, 24-hour security.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, just for the board members on the line, I'm not sure if you heard that, but what Keith Lambert was able to validate was that they have presence on site 24/7, even when they're not selling. Keith, any further questions for us? Do you feel like you have good understanding of next steps?
I do. The only question I have is that, provided that this gets approved on June 15th, if I remember correctly, there were other permits we needed to get, and then there was a period we had to wait afterwards. I just want to make sure there's not going to be a hang up with that.
No, you just gotta get a site plan in for signature.
Yeah, what Jim Martin was just saying, Keith, is that we would need to have a site plan submitted for signature by the chairman and one other member. I guess that brings up a key point is you gave us a very nice packet or application, but is there an actual site plan?
I believe that aerial photo is the closest we get to it.
That's the one that we ended up using?
Yep.
That's what we do up here.
Are we okay with that? Yeah?
There was one thing I noticed, difference between this site plan and last year's, if I'm not incorrect, is last year's included a location for a storage truck. And I don't see one on this one. Does that mean that we're not gonna have a truck that's there?
The question, Keith, was, we think that on last year's location plot plan, that it showed the location for a storage truck. But on this particular one, this year, there is not a storage truck that's shown or referenced. And I guess the question is, which way do you expect it to be, with or without a storage truck?
No, there's going to be no storage truck there. Last year, we had it flagged as a potential backhaul location, but the issue is the grass area there, being able to get a vehicle in and out and drop off, it was just too much, and it wasn't going to work.
So no storage truck?
No storage truck.
No storage truck.
Okay, thank you.
We need his consent to the tabling.
What's that?
We need his consent to the tabling as a practical matter.
Table?
Yeah, till next month, if we're gonna be tabling this.
But we don't have an action going on, do we?
Well, we have an application, so we need to table it.
Okay, Keith.
Gentlemen, I don't think you're tabling it. You're just setting it for a public hearing, or did I mishear that?
No, but that's correct. We made a motion to set a public hearing for June 15th.
Right, so you're not tabling anything.
Well, all right,
Okay.
I consider, okay, never mind.
All right, Keith, anything further for us?
I just wanted to clarify, I don't know if the question was answered, that, June 15th after the meeting, I know that, like I said, there might have been some kind of a period afterwards that has to wait, that's only 8 days from our opening date, or 10 days from our opening day. Can you just make sure we know what we need to do to get, what permits we need to get after that?
Sure. That was part of the conversation that we were having. We think that really, in essence, if the public hearing proceeds without any issues, and if we move forward with granting approval, then the requirement would be that the chairman, which is me, and one other board member sign the final plot plan. And we're thinking that this location plot plan that you used from last year would probably be what that would look like.
Oh, so that we wouldn't need to get any additional permits at that point?
No. Now, he may be referring to, Matt did inspect the site to make sure it complied with the site plan. And he couldn't open it until the date that he provided us, so, you know, that's the way it worked last year.
So the conversation is that last year, our code enforcement officer reviewed the site to make sure that the site plan, or that the overall layout complied with the approved site plan.
Okay, yeah.
That could have been, and then also he provided us with an opening day and a closing day, so that's what he was held to.
Yeah, I think that we're going in the same direction.
Yep.
It seems like 10 days between the meeting and his desired opening.
Hang on one second, Keith, I'm sorry. What was the comment from the line?
Jerry.
I just said it seems like 10 days between the meeting and his opening date should be plenty to get a signature, and, you know, it's not like he's looking to do it the next day.
Right, so the comment, Keith, is that from the date of our next meeting, which is June 15th, there's 10 days to ask that the chairman and another member review and sign the final drawing, and then for us to be able to inspect the site for compliance against the drawing. Correct.
And he's gonna need a sign permit.
And you'll need a sign permit.
I'm gonna send him a copy of that tomorrow.
Jim Martin is going to send you a copy of the sign permit details tomorrow as well. Okay, anything further? All right, Keith, we'll talk to you next month.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, take care. Bye.
Okay.
All right, with that, we'll allow for just a brief pause while we get reconfigured for our next agenda item, which is for Stewart's Shops at the corner of Route 9 and Spire Falls Road. Do you have a question, John?
He was, I think, talking to somebody else.
Oh.
Carl was making me seasick.
What's that?
Said Carla was making me seasick walking around.
It was getting cold outside, folks. I had to move back
I
inside.
thought I saw you sitting outside on your porch or something.
I was, but now it got real cold.
Yeah, the mosquitoes would have eaten me and taken me away about midway through the Congdon subdivision had I sat outside in my yard.
Chris Potter, are you there?
While we're getting set up for the next one, I just wanted to verify with you, Tricia, that after that lengthy conversation about the public hearing, wanted to verify that we did actually take a vote.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Okay, thanks. I made a note that we did, but
Yeah.
I might have dozed off.
Hey, can I ask a question before we get going with Stuart's about a very important, thing? How am I supposed to submit my payment
Voucher.
voucher? Right off.
It didn't come in the packet, did it?
No.
I'll try.
Mr. Martin taking care of that?
I can email you one. I'll scan it in and I can email it.
Well, we were just talking about how we were going to divvy up your 3 payments. So between Peter, Mike, and I, and Ellen, I think we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
That's
So that means- Jerry, that means Ron's going to fill them out for us and send them.
Got it. No.
Yeah, I can charge him the government rate.
Jim said he'd send it over.
Chris,
Not
are
a
you there? Chris Potter?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Chris,
are you at a computer or are you just going to be on speaker?
I have a computer, but I don't have a camera, so you won't be able to see me tonight.
All right, that's fine. Then we'll just do the audio.
But I am able to share my screen with plans if that would help too.
Okay. Because I have you, I got you hooked up so you can, provide video if you like.
Sure.
well, with that, we'll go ahead and kick this next agenda item off. It sounds like we have Chris Potter with us presenting on behalf of Stewart Shops. This is for a application at the corner of Route 9 and Spire Falls Road. This is a site plan review. So with that, Chris, we'll turn it over to you to give us a bit of a brief background narrative and talk about what it is that you're requesting.
Sure. Screen here.
Okay, we still have your audio, Chris?
Yep.
Okay.
Everybody see the plan on the screen?
I can, the board members can't, but I'll coach them through it as you reference things. Because they
Jim,
have their individual plans that you mailed
We
the
can
hard
see 'em.
copy.
Jim, I'm seeing it.
Yeah,
Well,
no, he
I'm
shared his
talking about
screen.
the people who are here in the meeting room, they can't.
Okay.
The board members who are on remotely can see it.
Okay, perfect. So we're proposing to build a new Stewart store at 11 Route 9, intersection of Spire Falls and Route 9. It would be a 3,975 square foot convenience store. We previously had demoed the existing store that's there. The gas pumps and tanks and canopy are still there. We kind of ran out of time with the whole COVID thing. So once things open back up, we're going to go ahead and get the old tanks out of the ground and the canopy down. We will be proposing a 20 by 80 foot canopy along Route 9, which will have 6 fueling points, which is what was there before, 6 fueling points out front. And then we're going to add an additional canopy along the side out towards the intersection, which would have 4 fueling points. Both of those canopies would have a diesel island underneath it. It would just be your standard flow, so it would just be your regular pickup trucks and cars that would be able to fuel up for diesel under those. And then off on the side towards the Hudson Headwaters would be a high flow diesel canopy. Currently there's 4 fueling points of what was there. We would just have 2, so it'd be reduced by half. And out in front of that would be our underground fuel storage tanks. So we wouldn't be reusing anything that's currently in the Now everything would be new. As far as access goes, we have a full access driveway proposed on Route 9. I know there were some comments that we received after we submitted from New York State DOT and Moreau County. So we'll be working those next submission to see what we would come up with for access. Then we also show 2 full access driveway Fire Falls Road, which may change based on Saratoga County's comments. We're proposing 40 parking spaces. We'll have parking on 2 sides of the building. We'll have a door that would face Route 9, and then another one that would face the other canopy out of the side. We'd have some parking out behind the shop, which would be mainly for employees, and then some parallel spots out towards the intersection to allow for some vehicles with trailers that may be able to pull in and pull out easily. As far as site lighting, we're to change that up a little bit. We had a couple light poles that are in the right of way from on the Saratoga County side along Spire Falls, so we're gonna have to adjust some of that stuff. We reached out to Hudson Headwaters for their lighting plan based on the staff comments, and once we get those plans, we may adjust lighting accordingly to comply, so everything blends in between us and them. The architecture of the building, I don't know, very similar to what we've been doing lately with new stores. I think nicely with Hudson Headwaters. We'll have a stone veneer along the bottom of the building, just like they do. Cement board siding, which they have on their building. So similar materials, a little different colors, but should fit in with the neighboring properties quite well. As far as signage, we would have one 16 square foot or 17 square foot sign on the building, and then 63 square foot freestanding sign out at the intersection, which would have our diesel and gas pricing on it.
That needs to get updated.
I know there was a comment about our septic system, about dry wells. It's not a preferred method, but per New York State DEC design standards, that dry wells are allowed. With this being such a short-term system and limited space, we felt the dry wells were the most cost-effective way to go with this site, and the constraints with space. With the sewer coming through, there would just very limited time that we would need the dry wells. We are proposing to have everything all set, so when the sewer does come through, it's just a quick, easy tie-in in the green space, so no disruption to any blacktop. Access, you can drive all the way around the building, out front around the gas canopies. As far as drainage goes, there is no drainage anywhere around here, so everything is going to be collected and held on site and infiltrated into the ground. There's underground storage chambers there's some out behind the store, and then there's some out towards the point. And then there's also, it'll be graded to have a small depression out at the intersection, which will take part of Spire Falls Road, because there is no drainage along that roadway, so everything sheet flows off the road and into the green space. It currently goes into the blacktop area parking lot that's currently there. So this will be a huge improvement from what they currently have. We'll be extending the concrete curbing along Route 9 across the frontage of our site. That was something that DOT had liked when we talked with them. we're proposing, we've been in contact with Hudson Headwaters. We show a sidewalk in connection with us and them at this point for any patrons they have there that can come over to our site as well as employees. We're not sure on the actual location yet, so this may move a little bit. Landscaping, I know there's a comment about being a little sparse on the corner. We can look at adding some additional. We did just have some plants around our sign. There's a couple planters up along the building. One along Route 9 where we have some green space there. It's kind of tough to do anything along Route 9 just because there's not a whole lot of space there, and DOT doesn't like anything in their right of way. So we'll look at adding some additional landscaping out at the intersection of Spire Falls and Route 9. Is our lighting plan. I know DOT made a comment about some light spillage out onto the road, so we'll be working with that on seeing if what we have is acceptable. They hadn't seen the lighting plan yet, so. And then just, we got some details for the site.
Okay.
So
Questions?
I was just going to ask, first of all, thanks for the overview, Chris. One of the questions I had when you were going through the discussion was about you had mentioned that trucks would be frequenting the site for deliveries, both, I think I would guess probably both for products within the store as well as for fuel deliveries. I think on drawing S9, it refers to the truck circulation plan. Would you be able to add turning radiuses to that for us as well? It looks like they're going to be coming in off Spire Falls Road and then back out south onto Route 9. Is that for both fuel deliveries and for product delivery?
Yeah, it would be, they could come in either way, off of Spire Falls or Route 9. I guess one option is showing coming in off of Spire Falls and circulating and going south on 9, and then the other coming in Route 9 and going out. And this would be for both our deliveries as well as, if a tractor trailer was to come in for to fuel up with diesel.
Board, any further questions?
Yes. I always have to.
Peter's got a question.
This site has had fuel tanks since the Lord wore short pants. Have you done or are you anticipating doing any testing to see if the site needs any remediation from leakage?
You talking about possible contamination, if I heard you correctly?
Fuel contamination leaks from the tanks, because that's been fueling gas stations and everything ever since who knows what. And it's always susceptible to leaks. I quite find it awful. This will give us an opportunity to make sure that the site is clear.
Yeah, if we did some test drillings, and we didn't find any contamination with the drillings that we performed, but based on I guess poor housekeeping that previous owners had, we kind of anticipate that there will be something on the site. If we do encounter it, we will clean it up.
And one other tongue-in-cheek comment I have is that on your drawings, they're all sealed, but the seal does not contain a signature. And that, of course, will have to be there before we do it.
Yeah, all the plans will have signatures, you know, come final site plan submittal.
Thanks, Peter. Anything further?
That's it for now.
Mark, can I ask a question? Sure. On the handicap parking, we got handicap in the front. Is there any reason why we can't put a couple over on the side for that side entrance?
Were you able to hear that, Chris?
Yeah, we tend to try and keep the handicap spots together. It's something we could possibly look at.
You know, there's only two there, and it's just for the one entrance, you know, with everything going on. You know, the code one way in, one way out, those kind of things. I just thought it'd be nice to, maybe put a couple in over on the one side, or at least one on the side. It's gonna be a busy place there, and I just think two, you know, in the front entrance is probably not enough.
What you can do, like, instead of telling them to look at it, just tell them to do it.
No, I'd like to see it done, so. The rest of the board feels about it.
Sure.
You okay with that?
Yeah, we can look at adding something over there.
Thank you.
Don't look, do it.
Anything else, Mike, other than the handicap to the side entrance? That's good.
Yep.
Alan, did you have?
I thought Chris, you mentioned two different underground fuel storage. I didn't see the second one. Did you say there was one out back also?
No, the only place for our fuel storage tanks are out front by the high flow diesel. There's actually two tanks. They're both 18,000 gallon tanks. One is 18,000 gallons of unleaded, and then the other one is a split tank. It's 10,000 gallons of diesel, and then 8,000 gallons of super.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see it. I thought you had said there was one out back also. So thank you.
Oh.
I have a couple.
Go ahead, John.
While we're on the discussion of parking, from the piggyback onto Mike's concern, when you calculated the number of parking spaces, what calculation did you use as far as the function of this building, or the function of this business or this use?
It was the 3,975 square foot. I believe was it one per 100 square feet.
As retail sale or restaurant, or how did you code it?
I think it was retail sales.
Okay, all right. The only reason I asked that is I noticed there were picnic tables surrounding the whole building and all, and I know Stewart's is kind of leaning more and more towards food ready to eat. So I was just curious on that. I noticed that the parking spaces are 9 feet wide. I realize our code only requires, I think our requirement is 200 square feet, but as a pickup truck driver, I would really request that maybe we could consider making those parking spaces 10 feet wide. I don't know how that would affect the calculation to the number of parking spaces that you would have, if there's any room off the ends of any of the parking lines to stretch it out a little bit, but 9-foot spaces are really tight.
Yeah, you're gonna lose parking, and then you wouldn't meet the parking requirement of 40 spaces.
Can you go to the floor plan, Chris? The building? I mean, as a practical matter, you know, and I, having prepared applications on behalf of applicants instead of just review them, one of the approaches here is that you don't consider common area and you don't consider space lost to shelving, you know, and display in that parking calculation. You're doing it off of a raw square footage of the building. And obviously the area behind the counter and things like that are not going to be patron area. So the patron area for that parking calculation really falls a lot. So in deference to John's point of a 10-foot wide space and a loss of parking, I think if you did a calculation on the true usable square footage of this, or patron accessible square footage of this building, you're going to find that the requirement's a lot less.
So going back to Mike's request earlier, I would say I would rather see you stick with the 2 handicap spaces you have, but make the spaces 10 feet wide if you can, than adding handicap spaces on. You already have 2 out of 40, which is a pretty good number.
Yeah, but John, there should be some over on the side for that side entrance.
No, I think we can accommodate both if you do the parking calculation based on the actual patron accessible square footage.
Right, right. I can see where you're going, Jim.
Because there's a lot of area in this particular use lost to the area behind the counter. And their inventory areas and their freezers and all that. Because I agree, I think the 10-foot space is a better, you know, more usable space. It's not just pickup truck drivers. All vehicles are getting larger.
Did you have a point? No, question.
And then Chris, on that landscaped area in the corner, just so you understand the point behind the comment, you know, as you drive that corridor, that is a gateway to the community. It's a real feature corner. And so what we're looking for there is not just more plantings, but a larger planting bed. You know, in the private, you know, in the area of the lot that you own that's under green space or not part of your parking, that parking or that landscape bed could be larger and more robust.
We don't want trees in there though, do we, Jim?
No, but I'm just saying something that's really an attractive feature to that corner.
Because the trees, you know, when they grow up and you can't see. And
right.
Structure.
It works against you, but
right.
But I think you know, I'm fine with perennials or whatever you want to do in terms of low maintenance, but you know, I'd like to see that a very attractive feature, and it could be. It's a very prominent corner, highly visible.
So while this slide is up, I have another question that involves this specific slide. So as you go north from your entrance.
The colored floor plan, the colored site plan, the building is brown, the green area, and I think it's one of the latter pages.
Yeah, it's the last page.
Last page. That's true. Yeah, that's true. You got it, that's true.
So on that last page of the map pack we got with our package, if you head north from the entrance off of Route 9, before you get to the intersection of Spire Falls, that the planning shows what looks like a second entrance off of Route 9. It would be right at the north end of the front fuel canopy. It's shaped like an entrance, but it isn't an entrance, and I just wondered what that is. Is that just a glitch in the program because it's a previous entrance or something, or?
It was proposed as an entrance, and then we had a phone conference with DOT. They were absolutely, so we changed the plans, but missed it on this colored site plan.
Right. That's what I thought probably happened. I just wanted to check and be sure, because otherwise it didn't make a lot of sense. So, thank you.
So Chris, did you understand my prior comment about the landscaped area on the corner?
Yep, I understand.
Okay. And then, on that septic seepage pit, I would like you to call our building inspector, Matt Drymiller. And I'd like you to get his sign off on it, because he's ultimately gonna have to approve this, when it comes for a building permit. And I think he's gotta understand how that's allowable. I don't know that that's, in his mind, an allowed approach. So it's better to have that conversation now rather than later.
Yeah, I can give him a call.
He's seen the plan, I showed it to him, he didn't look at it in detail, but he did review it quickly, and he kind of raised his eyebrow and said, I don't understand how that's allowed, so.
Well, another comment while we're on that slide or on that page. This is the one where you presented the sidewalk to Hudson Headwaters. And I guess with a goal of getting traffic off of Route 9, have you considered leaving room there or having room there for a roadway between the two?
We did look at doing a roadway, but where it would have to go, ideally where it would work best would be right through the building that they're finishing construction on now.
Okay.
But it would have to be so far in the back that it really didn't seem practical to construct it through there.
Okay.
I think the pedestrian connection is better in a way, because if somebody leaves their car parked in either location and walks, that's even better.
Okay.
So I like that. I think the pedestrian connection is great.
Chris, are you able to provide us, I guess, with the most timely update today that you know of as to where the review stands between the county DPW and DOT? What's happening next, and what, I guess, which comment or set of comments are going to be the ones that we as a planning board need to pay the most attention to for access to and from the site?
Well, I would say our next step would be probably to perform some sort of traffic study. I would like to try and keep full access on Route 9. There was a comment from DOT to restrict the lefts out. I think, yes, at your peak times, I think you're not going to make a left out of, in the morning, obviously, but in the evening, I would think you would tend to be able to make the left out with the turn lane. You can get in the turn lane and somebody's going to let you in. I think it's just going to be in the morning, but at that point, everybody's heading south pretty much anyway. So I think if we get a traffic study, that may support full access on Route 9. So I think that's the route we want to go there. And then as far as, either restricting the curb cut on Spire Falls Road that's closest to the intersection or possibly eliminating it. Again, that's something we got to look into. I think it would be okay. The reason we had two of them was kind of we thought that the trucks would maybe use the one closest to the back, and maybe some of the cars would use the one up towards the front. And I get it's very busy there in your peak morning and your peak evening, but other than that, I don't see an issue with any kind of stacking there.
Well, I guess let me ask the question a little different then. For the planning board's purposes at this point, with the proposed site plan that we have, I don't have any of these three locations been limited from Stuart's perspective in terms of ingress and egress, or are all three to be considered full ingress and full egress at this point?
at this point, they're all shown as full ingress and egress.
Okay, and so then as a next step, you're thinking that there's gonna be a traffic study to help both the DOT and the county and us decide whether any of those entrances or exits need to be limited?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
I guess I would fashion that a different way, just say, you know, if we're gonna have a revised plan here, I'd like to have it by the June 1st deadline for the next meeting, so we know, you know, where things are at.
Correct. It sounded like there was gonna be a traffic study involved, right, that was gonna try to help with that. I guess, I'm one board member, but I wouldn't feel comfortable, you know, let's say going to a public hearing next month without knowing that I'm looking at a drawing that says, okay, you know, the traffic motion onto Route 9 is gonna be X and the traffic motion on and off Aspire is gonna be Y. So I don't feel like I have that tonight.
That's my point, saying by the June 1st deadline, that way we do have the most up-to-date and accurate information that we can then provide to the board members and provide to the public during the public hearing.
Correct.
Are we going to have a traffic study? First question. If we are, then we need to have the town's consultant review that before we do anything else.
What Peter is referring to, Chris, is that we've, I guess you could say adopted, or we've been fairly consistent with our practice that when we have a traffic study, we have it peer reviewed by a traffic advisor for the planning board as well.
Okay.
And usually, you know, we would take some action on a traffic study that we have in front of us in order to then trigger that next step to say, can we please have this reviewed, you know, and commented so that we can include that as part of our overall review.
I guess a question maybe for the board members, I guess, what's the sense from the members of the board as far as full access? I guess if everybody is on the page of they should be restricted as DOT and the county say, then is it really worth the fight to try and get a traffic study and to do that, I guess, go that route?
I think we would be remiss if we didn't have a traffic study. We've had it on everything major on 9.
Yeah.
Well, could I suggest this? You have to do a traffic study for either the county or the state or both, correct?
Right now, the state is requiring something for the large tractor trailers that would be coming into the site with the high flow diesel canopy. I think it could be a very basic traffic study that would appease them. You know, we're decreasing the amount of fueling points for large tractor trailers. So there's going to be less tractor trailers coming in and out of this site than what the site previously had. So I think that was the only point they wanted the traffic study for. I was thinking to go even further into the traffic study to help sell the case for full access onto Route 9.
I missed that subtle point. So this is a site that's going to allow for tractor trailers to be able to fuel up then as well.
Yeah, that diesel fueling station at the side is a tractor trailer capable station.
I got you.
So you're thinking you're going to need to be developing a traffic study anyhow to make your case for the trucks fueling on the site and making a turning movement and to accommodate a full access driveway on Route 9. Right?
Yeah, but I think the level of what would be required in the traffic study for just the diesel trucks the large tractor trailers is a lot different than as far as the full access driveways.
Has there been any concern expressed by DOT about the operations of that intersection as a result of your traffic?
No, because the feeling was it's a decrease of what was there. It was, the building, it's going from 2 uses to 1. The overall, number of fueling points is less. So that was, I think, like 1 2-page letter from a traffic engineer touching on those points, I think would satisfy that. But I think we would have to go a step further to then show more data to have full access on the Route 9 than to restrict the left movements out.
If I can just make a comment, Chris, you would ask what the board's feeling was. I'll just speak personally, and all I can offer you is anecdotal evidence. I get off of 87 mid to late afternoon a lot of days, and traffic is down to exit 17. So there will be a sense in the community that there is a traffic issue on that stretch of Route 9.
Oh no, I agree. I live a mile and a half from this site, so I'm very familiar with the traffic issues here.
You had asked, kind of what the board thought. I'm just offering you my opinion that I can understand, especially northern.
Well, what I guess what I'm trying to say, Chris, is it sounds like you're going to be compiling an awful lot of traffic information to support both the truck turning movements and the full access driveway. And is that data something that you can share with the board, to meet their questions?
Yeah, I was just thinking if the board was totally on board with to restricting the movements, then I guess why spend the time and the money to go and do the enhanced study to try and get to show why we would get to keep full access, I guess.
So if I could intercede on this for just a moment, I'll agree with Jerry. There's about 4 to 5 hours on that stretch of highway that there's no doubt a serious traffic volume. How's that? I'm not going to say if it's a problem or not. I'll leave that up to the state DOT. There are, however, 19 hours a day where you could whip left out of there anytime you want to. So is it possible that, number one, we could solve any kind of egress problem by having a 3-lane entrance or exit there where you have a left-hand turn lane and a right-hand turn lane and then an in lane? So that way you're not plugging up people sitting there for an hour waiting to turn left onto Route 9 during rush hour. And number two, I wonder if the people that are in the Stewarts will learn pretty quickly not to try and turn left onto Route 9 during that time. As somebody who used to live on Route 9 there way back in the 80s, I know in the morning during rush hour, I had to take a left to go up to South Glens Falls to work. I never went that way. I took a right, went down to the Cumberland Farms and turned around. So I think people will learn very quickly to go back out onto Spire Falls Road and catch the light to be able to take a left back onto Route 9. So I guess I'm not sure, as we're talking about doing a traffic study, what the concern is as far as, I mean, is it just that somebody might try to turn left during rush hour?
I'm not quite 100% sure why DOT wanted to restrict lefts out on Route 9. When I had a phone conversation with them, I don't know, a month or so ago, the lefts out was not something they'd said, and then I had an email that showed no lefts out. So that was a surprise to me. Otherwise, we probably would have changed something from, you know, with the submission, or I had already started a traffic study. You know, what we had proposed to DOT, the plan that they had saw was 2 driveways on Route 9, and that's, they had said no way. So we got rid of that for this submission. So I guess.
See that. I can see why they would say no to that. But your entrance that's remaining there is pulling out into where there's the middle left-right turn lane. It isn't far
Correct.
enough up to the intersection that it's in the left-only lane, right?
It is not, nope.
Okay, so it would seem to me that they've already remediated that issue by putting that left-right median lane in there. Really, there's only, I would say there's only 1 rush hour per day where that's an issue, and that's the afternoon one. The morning one, it's probably a pretty quick shot to turn left. You can probably find a gap in the southbound traffic to do that. But I will agree with Jerry. If it's during rush hour in the afternoon, you're not turning left out of there anyways. That's just a given. So, but that's only during that 2 or 3 hour rush hour time period, in my opinion. So, but I'm not doing a traffic study. So.
Right, and I think while all of these points are good ones, John, and the rest of the board members too, you know, I can speak, at least for myself, I'm not a traffic expert. I think we all have good anecdotal information as to what we see each day for traffic, both in the morning and the afternoon through that section. I think the DOT has, through some of their comments, expressed that they're particularly sensitive to what is happening on that corridor already. And now we're going to potentially introduce large truck traffic coming and going from the Stewart shop on top of that. So in my opinion, it might be of our collective best interest to have a traffic study that layers what the traffic in and out of Stewart's wants to look like with the existing traffic that's on the road, so that then when we're in front of the public for a public hearing, we can speak to some of the subtle details that were identified during that and how they help to shape revisions to the site plan accordingly. Otherwise, we're really, you know, we're doing a little bit of guesswork.
I agree, Ron. I think you make a good point there. I guess when I look at it, I would think the only reason, if looking at this plan, the only reason that that I would, well, how do I want to phrase this? I don't think there's any advantage, given other Stewarts that I've seen, to the exit entrance off of Route 9. I mean, I go by a lot of them where you kind of got to take a convoluted way to get there, and they all seem to do a good business. So I don't think that'll be the issue here. I really think if Stewart's wants to have that left turn out, then that it becomes incumbent on them to make the case with the state.
Yep. I agree, Jim. So we need that in the form of a motion?
Well, we're getting an escrow account.
Yeah.
We need to have an escrow set up and all that.
Yeah. I mean, the rest of the board members can chime in. I mean, if you feel different, if you don't feel that it's essential, then now's a good time to speak up. And some of the semantics that Jim was mentioning is that, you know, this is going to require, in order for us to go through those steps, to have an escrow account set up, and it'll add some time to the overall review as well, in terms of all those logistics, right? Getting a site or getting a traffic study in place and getting it conducted, getting the results back, getting it to us, having us allow for peer review, and then allowing that to shape any edits to the site plan before we take it to the public. So that's what that'll look like.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
But other than that, it's a piece of cake. So. So I guess for the board members then, if you feel that you want to see a traffic study conducted, then you need to put that forward with some detail in the form of a motion so that the applicant can react to that. So a motion from Peter to see a traffic study in detail so that for Stuart's benefit, they can provide the level of detail that's needed, that DOT is required to be able to consider that full access for a northbound exit onto Route 9, as well as the impact of traffic on Spire Falls Road coming into the shop. A motion by Peter, do I have a second?
Second.
And a second by Alan. I don't think it's too controversial. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I shall concur.
So, Chris, I'll be getting an estimate from the peer review for the cost of that. I'll be sending you that amount, and we'll need that in the form of a escrow deposit.
Okay.
And do you want us to put in the form of a motion for us to ask that for that peer review to happen?
Yes, I think that would be.
What we just did was basically ask the applicant to have a traffic study conducted. You want us to go through that next piece to say, hey. To the motion that the results of the traffic study be peer reviewed on behalf of the town's planning board. I have a motion by Peter. Do I have a second? And a second by Alan. Any further discussion? Again, not too controversial. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I shall concur. Thanks. What other questions do you have or information do you need to see from this applicant board?
What are the hours of operation?
I don't think they've been set yet, but typically we go in with new stores like we propose 4 a.m. to midnight.
But you'll have that formally requested, like at the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay. I did see a question. Jim, did you see that Ann had asked in kind of the text chat portion of the window?
No, I lost that when the site plan went up. I lost that.
Okay. So Ann is asking, can Chris comment on the setback requirements? I'm not certain. That's all it says, so I don't know. I can't put any other context on it.
Yeah, Chris,
Sure.
any comment?
Yep, we went to the ZBA and we had to seek variances for the gas canopies for the front yard setback, which we did obtain all the variances needed for this proposed site plan.
That's right, that was done, I think, in February or March.
Already have those. That's good.
Any other questions or chats from the folks that are on the line?
So Chris,
I don't see any.
Chris, this is going to be just a Stewart shop, right? This is not a co-use.
I don't believe so. Chris, there's no office space for this or any other type of, or other retail use, right?
No, it would be strictly just the Stewarts.
Okay, all right.
You have one of your enhanced, like beverage centers, like, I know someone had like what they call a beer cave. Not that I've ever been in one, that's what I hear.
Absolutely, we're gonna have a beer cave here. It's gonna be, no,
That's a good
I
question.
stopped
though.
sharing my,
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
yeah. I'll go back to share my, I could show you where the beer cave is.
As a practical matter, though, that's part of the retail space, which in other store shops, right? It's just part of the cooler section. But in this case, the public can go in, they can mill around, they can shop. It's part of the retail footprint, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right now, if they stay 6 feet apart.
It's pretty cold in there.
You can get beer
So
delivered.
you can go in your front door, you can make a left, hit the ice, and then go into the beer cave, and you're all set.
Yours is famous for their ergonomic designs. Bathrooms in every store and free air refills.
Everybody loves the free air.
So at this point, there's a pretty good laundry list of additional items.
Yeah, I can recap.
That's going to be coming out, I guess, for the application. I was going to ask Jim to do a quick recap, and anybody else that had anything else.
Yeah, I'll recap and let me know if I missed anything. Okay, Chris, you ready?
Yep.
Add handicap spaces along at the side entrance. Change the parking spaces to 10-foot wide spaces and recalculate the parking ratio based upon the actual square footage of the patron area of the floor plan. You're gonna call Matt Drymiller, our building inspector, about the allowance of the proposed septic treatment method with the dry wells. We're gonna see an enhanced landscaping plan at the corner, both in terms of a larger area and better plantings. And then a traffic study is going to be done. It's going to be peer reviewed with an escrow account set up to pay for that cost. That's all I have.
The other one that I had, Chris, during the course of conversation, you had mentioned that there was some, I think soil results from borings or some testing that you had done, and that there would likely be some additional testing that would be conducted. The board would like to be able to see what you've done so far, as well as any additional sampling that occurs.
Yeah, I can reach out to our geologist and see what we have for test results. We didn't find any contamination when we did this thing. We just kind of anticipate, based on the poor housekeeping that the previous owners had, that there'll be something on site, which we won't find until we start the removal of the existing tanks and the canopy areas. So when we dig, we have a geologist on site all the time. DEC is notified, and there's time if something's found, it gets addressed at that point in time.
Okay.
I think that's sound protocol.
I was just curious if they had some thus far. Board,
I recall when Stewart's went in on the corner of Bluebird and 32, they did the same thing. That was the old gas station there. And I think, and if Chris, tell me if I'm not mistaken, you guys traditionally, you'll remediate right up to the property line.
Yes, that is correct. Within reason, if DOT or DEC tells us to stop, for safety reasons or whatever, then, it's obviously it's up to them, but we've done some pretty deep dig outs for contamination.
Thank you.
Board in the room, anything further for Chris? No. How about the folks on the line? Anything further for Chris?
No, I don't see any other comments posted.
Well, All set.
Good here.
John said he's good.
I'm good.
Chris, turnabout's fair play. Do you have anything for us as a board?
I don't believe so. We'll try real hard to get out for the June meeting. Might be a little tight with the traffic study and getting all that together, but we'll try hard. We wanna hopefully get this thing approved and get started with construction shortly. So
Yeah,
I appreciate everybody.
I don't know if you had heard us during the last chat with that applicant, but our date of submission would be June 1st for next month's meeting. So we need to try to, have everything turned around by then.
Well, what I'll try and do is I'll try and get an estimate on the peer review for traffic tomorrow and pass that along to you so we can get the escrow set up.
And I guess it really probably doesn't make sense if we don't have the traffic study to do a submission. Like, that's probably really the biggest piece here, I would imagine.
That's correct. And also, did you guys send in the escrow amount for the SWIP review?
I will double check on that.
Because the sooner we get that in, the sooner that gets started, and that's just one less thing.
Okay.
All right, Chris, it's looking like a good project, so we look forward to seeing you back.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate everybody's time.
All right, thanks a lot. And I guess before we adjourn, I'll just ask you, Jim, if you have anything further for us.
Just to bring you up to date on the comp plan.
We're gonna start the next. There was a delay due to the COVID issue and the concern over impact on budget. The supervisor had us, pause the work for a little while, so we did. But I think that was, alleviated or to some degree. So anyhow, we were authorized to start work again. But we're going to get into the next phase of this in a fairly detailed and aggressive way, meaning that we're going to start getting into the districts in terms of, their makeup, the land uses that are appropriate for them. Again, I want to emphasize, I don't think I see a lot of wholesale change, but certainly one of the problem districts is the C1 and how it's configured and how it's written, and particularly in terms of the use schedule for that district. The all-inclusive, businesses with service highway traffic thing. That's been problematic for years. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a detailed windshield survey of the Route 9 corridor for land uses that exist out there today and record that information. And we're going to do it for Route 32 and 197. And if there's any other corridors or areas of the town that you think where that kind of, in the field observation is needed, we'll do that. But the remaining part of the town will be in the form of a desktop GIS and real property service data assessment. I don't know if you're aware, but for every real property in the town, every real property parcel, the assessor is required to code that for land use. And it's a 3-digit code. The first digit gives you the general, what it is, like commercial, residential, what have you. And then the second and third digit get more and more detailed, like for example, I think residential is a 400 series. So a 423 land use code is like a, 5-family apartments, something like that. So it gets more. So on that basis, because one of the good things in this community is, Peggy and now the new assessor, they both keep great information in terms of the land use coding, so it's very up to date. So we can access that information for the balance of the town. So that'll be the basis on which we check land use against the allowed uses in those districts.
Okay.
And then the third part to this is going to go through the zoning map and highlighting all those areas where we have split zone parcels. And there's going to be a lot. I would imagine it's going to be in the hundreds, if not maybe over 1,000. And I personally would like to make an effort to eliminate those. So that's going to require a decision be made as to, you know, where does the line shift to? You know, if it's a commercial residential split, you know, what should we do with a parcel? And we're going to try and develop some standards and as we approach that decision, and we'll come out with a draft map for everybody's review. But you'll know down to the individual parcel what happened with those lines. So how it shifted, and if there's, you know, question or disagreement, then we will we'll adjust accordingly. But we'll develop a draft map, you know, that shifts that boundary one way or the other.
Good. Okay.
So that's a big part of this exercise now, particularly for a, you know, a zoning code that's somewhat dated, you know, and land uses have come in, you know, they've evolved so much since that time. I mean, I can remember, you know, there was a time when video rental stores weren't even known what they are. They since came on the scene and now they're gone.
No, they don't exist.
So, kind of dating myself. Anyhow, so that's what we're in. We're into that next phase. So you're going to see that. We're going to progress that over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
And do you also have the draft of the solar portion?
Yes, the solar is done in a draft form. Carla's seen it, has made comments on it, and it's now with the town board, you know, going through their review of it. And once they get done with that, I think it'll come out for, you know, public review and public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could pop in on that, if I could just pop in on that, it hasn't gone to the town board yet. The supervisor has it, and I'm making a couple more changes that the supervisor has requested, and Jim, I'll send those to you, but it should be to the town board this week.
Okay. So, and then can you share with them, Carla, what's going on with the multifamily, what the solution was on that?
Sure. As far as what we're doing is we're just going through and taking care of removing the multifamily from the ag districts. We're still kind of in the process of playing around with that, but that's generally what we're going to do. We have to add some definitions. But the hope is that we'll be able to have that all done. Again, that should go to the board this week too. We have to do the public hearings and everything. Our time period to do the moratorium ends August 30th. So while we do have some time, you know, we all know that, you know, 10 weeks passes really fast. You know, like it has.
You have to accommodate timeframes for hearings and stuff. So
absolutely, absolutely. So we're moving forward, and we have language for everything.
And basically what you mean by pulling multifamily out of ag is that, technically speaking, right, in the current zoning, you can have duplex in like R5. And that's going to be
right. So there would be no duplexes or multifamily housing in any of the I think it's 3, 4, and 5.
Correct. Anywhere where there's ag allowed.
Right,
ag becomes a permitted use in R3, R4.
Right. Your comp plan really talks to that, and the farmland protection plan talks to that. You know, how you want to maintain and not have as much development in the ag district, and this is one way that you can make that happen.
Can I just ask a question? Have we addressed the concerns that the public seem to have about the multi-family development in the UR area? I mean, that seemed to be where all the controversy was. I don't remember anybody getting upset about a duplex in a 5-acre lot in the R5. It was the multi-family units going into the UR area that seemed to be the biggest concern.
And Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if the UR was one of the ones that I had identified or not. But you know, the town board and the public still have the right to, they're going to have the opportunity to review all of this and to give, you know, if they want to make comments and play around, taking it in and out of the UR zone, not play around, that's a bad term. But I've been advised to take it out of the ag district. That's my direction, but I don't know what the public's going to do.
It's certainly going to be addressed in the overall zoning effort. I can't speak to what's going on with the moratorium review, but it certainly will be addressed in the overall zoning effort. And my approach to that is to look at the density that's allowed in that district. I think it appears to be too high in consideration of the parcels that exist in that district and where those parcels are located. So there's too much density being allowed in there.
Okay. Any other updates for us?
That's pretty much it. It's been busy. The building department's been very busy, believe it or not. People are doing decks and sheds and stuff at an unprecedented level.
Yeah, because they're all home. So.
Here's what Walter, when he going to the Great Escape,
The Lowe's down by me, I got caught a couple days in line in the store. They only let some people in at a time. You had to wait to go in.
Up here, they're just letting everybody, you just pile in. Crazy.
All right.
All right.
Anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for joining in, and I think it worked out pretty well.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I'll take one.
You got it, motion to adjourn.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Take care, one and all.
Motion carried.
Jim, we historically use Peter Ford on the traffic.
Pardon?
We historically use Peter Ford on the traffic.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna call. Yeah.
I didn't know where he was at specifically, that's why I didn't mention it, but.
Ron, John's fault.
Yeah.
To bring us back to Jerry's concern earlier in the meeting, can the building department mail out vouchers, or are we gonna have an email one that we print up and mail in, or how is this gonna work?
Email if that's okay.
I'm gonna try to email it to you, is that okay?
That's fine with me. I just wanted to make sure we dealt with it before we close
I have a
out.
note of it here on my thing to do.
You got a note on this list. All right, hey, you guys have a really nice Memorial Day weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Likewise.
Jim, how's the sewer moving along?
My understanding before all this slowed down was that they were trying to